One of the most useful things you can learn to play is called a power chord. And power chords are so useful because they're neither major nor minor, and as long as you know the letter name of the note, you can play along to almost any piece of music. Power chords are actually called fifth chords because they've got just two notes in them, the first and the fifth degree of the scale, which is why we sing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 1 so often in all of our lessons. So what we're going to do now is we're going to learn how to form a power chord, and then we're going to use that type of chord to play Katy Perry's Firework. So as I said before, a power chord is just two notes, the first and the fifth degree of the scale. So to play two notes at the same time, we do need to be able to play two strings, but only those two strings. So we're going to start with our first finger, and I'm going to place it on the fifth fret. That's the one with this first dot on it if you're playing the acoustic guitars, and the second dot if you're playing the electric guitars. Now I've zoomed in very close, and that means the first fret you can see on my guitar is the fifth. But don't be confused, there are actually 4 frets before I get here. So I'm going to take my first finger and I'm going to place it on the fifth fret on the sixth string. And I've angled my finger so that all of the other strings, when I play them, are muted. So here's the 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd and 1st string. And as you can hear, the only one making a note is the 6th string, the lowest string, the thickest string. That's because I know I only want to play 2 notes in total, and I don't want to accidentally hit other notes when I strum. So I've literally just taken the fleshy part of my finger and allowed it to rest against all of the other strings, while the first tip of my finger on the 6th string is pushed down to actually make the sound. The rest are being held too light to actually make a note. Then I take my third finger, my ring finger, leaving out my second finger importantly, and I place that on the 7th fret of the 5th string. Remember, we need to be on 2 different strings to be able to play 2 different notes. So while that's on the 7th fret, I've again got it at such an angle that that's muting at least the 4th string and probably the 3rd string as well. But it mustn't mute the 6th string. The 6th string must be able to ring out the note that you've got your finger on. I'll do that again. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The only 2 notes making a sound are the 6th. The only 2 strings making a sound are the 6th and 5th. And that gives me what I'd call an A5 or an A power chord because we're on the 5th fret. And this note here is an A, as we found when we were doing Smoke on the Water. Now the beauty is, wherever I move this shape, it changes the chord. So if I were to move it up 1 fret, it would become B flat 5. Up another fret, and then it becomes C5. That was 2 frets that time actually. If I move it down to my first dot on the 3rd fret, it becomes G5. So every time there's the same amount of space. My finger on the 6th string, my next finger, my 3rd finger on 2 strings, 1 string higher and 2 frets higher, and the fingers muting the other strings between them. And I can use this to play virtually any song. And I'm going to prove the case by playing you Katy Perry's Firework using just the power chord shape. So I start with that on the 8th fret, so first finger on the 8th fret and 3rd finger on the 10th fret, and I play that for a whole note. You'll see on the tablature that it's 2 circles, one above the other, meaning 2 different notes. The circles aren't filled in and they don't have a line on them, which means they're a whole note, which means they last for 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. The next chord is a D5, so I move my shape up 1, 2 frets so that my first finger is on the 10th fret and my 3rd finger is on the 12th fret, again on the 6th and 5th string. You can always spot the 12th fret because it's got 2 dots on it. So I play that for a whole note as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. So my first two chords are 8th fret, 1, 2, 3, 4. 10th fret, 2, 3, 4. Next, I slide it down to where we started this, when we started learning power chords, which is the 5th fret for A5. So that's again, first finger on the 5th fret, third finger on the 7th fret on the 5th string, the fingers muting the other strings between them. And that's again a whole note, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the end of the pattern is on the 1st fret. So I'll move my guitar so you can see that. And I put my first finger on the 6th string 1st fret, my third finger on the 5th string 3rd fret. And I'm using my other fingers to sort of keep a bit of space between there, because as I've been sliding down, it would be very easy for them to come close together or further apart. You need to make sure that there's a 2 frets distance and 1 string's distance between them. And using your other fingers as a sort of buffer zone can be really helpful for that. So I'm going to play that whole pattern with a whole note on each one from the start now. So I'm going to make sure you can see all of the frets I'm going to be playing. There we go. And I'm going to start with the 8th fret for C5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Once you can do that, keeping 4 beats between them, sliding between, see if you can add a bit of a rhythm to it. I'm going to suggest doing 8th notes for each chord. So that would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and back to the start. Always try to end the pattern on the same note that you started it on, same chord you started it on even. So that's how to play Katy Perry's Firework. I'll play it a couple of times through so that you can hear what you're aiming for. When you've got the hang of that, why don't you upload a recording of you playing it and singing it to Numia?